So we are 900 days into Russia's war in Ukraine, and we are 6 days into Ukraine's invasion of Russia. So that's where we are, day 6 in Kursk. So we're going to start here with this update. Ukraine's little round top defeat of Putin. This was in the Kyiv Post just a few hours ago. Now, if you're not an American and you're not familiar with Little Round Top, there was a battle called Gettysburg in the Civil War, and Little Round Top was kind of one of the turning points in that battle, and I'll explain what happened here in just a moment. Not only has Vladimir Putin, the Emperor of Russia, been proven to have no clothes, but as evidenced in daily in Kursk, the Russian army, militarily speaking, has been caught stark naked as well by the armed forces of Ukraine. Ukraine's stunning counteroffensive in Kursk that began on August 6 is proving personally to be a major embarrassment to Putin, and it is. It's politically giving him a huge black eye. Now, here he's talking about what happened at Gettysburg, as Colonel Joshua Chamberlain did while defending Little Round Top at Gettysburg during the American Civil War. Sometimes you have to fix bayonets and attack. Okay, so what does he mean by that? So at Little Round Top, this is the battle map of Gettysburg. The Union Army was in blue, that's the Northern Army, and the Southern Army in red. Okay, and all the way at the very far end on the second day of the battle, this is the 20th Maine that's commanded by Joshua Chamberlain, and he's told, like, you're at the end of the line. You must hold this position. He's on a high ground called Little Round Top, and he must hold this line. And he's just getting all this pressure. The 15th Alabama is about to attack. I've been to Gettysburg many times. I grew up one state away from Pennsylvania in New Jersey. And so I've been there many times, spent days riding the battlefield on a horse, going through every movement there. It's just something that I found very interesting. Okay. And at a certain point, he's realizing we are not going to be able to hold this position. And if we don't hold, the Confederates will come up over this ridge and they'll come right behind and they'll flank everyone here and the battle will be over. So in desperation, he calls his men to fix bayonets, which they're out of ammunition and they can't hold. So they fix bayonets and they charge down into the Confederates and actually take a bunch of them prisoner. It's pretty amazing. Okay, and this is a painting of Chamberlain in his attack at Gettysburg. And so, yeah. Okay, so that's what he's talking about there. So the Ukrainians might have been in that moment where they just have to fix bayonets and attack. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and his generals have proven the Russian army to be one-dimensional. Putin's army can lay siege and it can inch forward, bleeding bodies. However, it cannot maneuver. Okay, so that's a brilliant point, because what they're good at is taking lots of artillery, smashing a city, and then sending meat wave attacks of infantry forward. But they're not really able to cope with what's happening in Kursk. They just don't, they seem out of their depth. The Russian army is not their father's Soviet army. Rather, they are their great-grandfather's meat grinder of an army that fled the battlefields of World War I. The AFU's daring blitz came shortly after Gerasimov had inspected Russian troops in occupied Ukraine, amid reports that he dismissed intelligence. Listen to this. Gerasimov dismissed intelligence warnings that Ukrainian soldiers were gathering near the border with Russia's western Kursk region as much as 2 weeks before they began their assault. So we were speculating the other day about, like, how did this happen? Like, what's going on that they didn't see this huge army massing at the border, or they just dismissed it? Well, that's what happened. They dismissed it. Many in Washington questioned whether Ukraine could mount another counteroffensive. Sersky's forces found a weak spot in the Russian defenses and World War I-like mindset, and then exploited it with 3 principles of war: surprise, maneuver, and mass. One thing is certain: this is not an incursion nor the buffer zone that the Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov envisioned in March. It is a significant arm thrust into Russian pride, and that's exactly what it is. Now, here's what you need to understand. The Ukrainians are not going to be able to really push back against the counteroffensive lines as they are. They're mined, they're fortified, that kind of thing. So here, they're using their strengths. They're using surprise and maneuver and mass. Now, here's the thing. A duck is brilliant at swimming and can fly a little bit. But if you had to have a duck climb a tree, he would lose that contest. So the Ukrainians, instead of trying to climb the tree, are trying to go find open water where they can be a duck. And that's what they're doing here. And it's pretty incredible to watch. Okay. Kursk Oblast, Russian channels are spreading rumors that Ukrainian Special Operations Forces units are operating in the Russian rear area using captured Russian equipment to blend in and conduct attacks. Now, if that is happening, that's pretty amazing. If it's not happening, that they're spreading the rumors are amazing. And maybe it's the Ukrainians spreading rumor. I don't really know what's going on here. I keep seeing videos after videos after videos of captured Russian POWs. And this is another video. This I just showed one. This is a second one. And I haven't showed these videos before to my knowledge. They're everywhere. Okay, Zelensky thanks the military for the effective capture of occupiers in the past 3 days. Now, this is important, and I would like to separately thank those of our soldiers and our units that replenish the exchange fund, take occupiers prisoner, and thus help keep free our people from Russian captivity. This is extremely important, and over the past 3 days, especially effective. Right, because they're going to be able to trade these mostly conscripts for their own soldiers back into Ukraine. Now, there's more to that story, though. Russian military expert Pavel Nerozny said Putin will have to stop the offensive and send troops to the Kerch direction. That's exactly right. That's what they were hoping for, that these troops will be on their way to try to stop what the Ukrainians are doing, taking the pressure off Donetsk as they're moving toward Pokrovsk. Okay. The Ukrainians have been ingenious all the way through. The Ukrainian military hacks into CCTV cameras, hack into Russia's Kerch region, allowing Ukrainians to control movement of Russian troops and target them with pinpoint strikes. How about that? Meanwhile, the Russians are writing for the Kerch Oblast on bombs that they are using to bomb the Kerch Oblast. Go figure. Ukraine's cross-border operation into Kerch Oblast threatens the Kremlin with a potential political crisis regarding casualties among Russian conscripts, whom the Kremlin has increasingly relied on to defend the Russian state border with Ukraine. Now, the conscripts are like 18-year-olds that have to go into service. They haven't signed a voluntary contract. They just have to do it, and they don't want to be there. And yeah, now this guy here who's telling his story, he is talking about how stormtroopers, these are those who sign voluntary contracts, live from 1 day to 3 days on average. Wow. Those who are lucky live longer, the serviceman said, emphasizing that he was lucky. A Russian serviceman who serves in the 25th Brigade of the Russian Armed Forces told what happens when you fell for payments from the Russian state. Like when you go, you know what, the money's good, maybe I'll go do it. Yeah. Meanwhile, the families of conscripts who have to serve are really upset and want their sons to be safe, and that's understandable. Military commanders, however, have refused to move conscripts to the rear in the Kerch region. They're being picked up in droves and made prisoners. Now, I saw this in RT and I thought, well, this is interesting, especially juxtaposed against the next article. Kerch is a decisive battle, says the Chechen commander. The fight in Russian Kerch region is a decisive battle which will ultimately lead to Kyiv's collapse, the commander of the Akhmat Special Forces from Russia's Chechen Republic has claimed. I see no reason for you to doubt, to think that we could even lose this battle, he said, while making an appeal for more people to join the army. I urge all of you to make a decision in this battle, the decisive battle, he said, adding, because after this battle, Ukraine will fall, as well as NATO, Europe, the United States, and all those supporting Ukraine. You have no place in our land, and we will do everything to keep you out, he said, stressing that Russia is more united than ever. We are a force that no one can stop. Well, that's really interesting coming from the Chechen commander, because I saw this article. A Russian conscript surrendered the positions of the Kadyrovites who, yeah, I'm not even going to say it just for YouTube censors, right? Yeah, this is a thing. The Russian soldier decided to voluntarily surrender to Ukrainian captivity and take revenge on his offenders from the Akhmat group. Remember how Russia's more united than ever? We're a force no one can stop? Well, a Russian soldier from the Kerch region helped the armed forces of Ukraine identify 5 fighters from the Akhmat unit at once in exchange for instructions to successfully surrender and stay alive. Why? Private Anton's primary motivation was not even to save his own life, but desire to take revenge on them for the abuse that he and his comrades suffered from the fighters of the Akhmat unit who arrived in early May. According to the boy, from the beginning of May until August 6, the Kadyrov soldiers periodically visited them in the barracks and forced them to engage in unspeakable acts. As Anton told us, he's happy that the Ukrainians entered Kerchnia, otherwise the Kadyrov hell would have continued for him and his colleagues for a long time, and he would have definitely committed, yeah. Okay, so that's where they are. Zelensky acknowledged Ukraine's incursion for the first time. They have been so tight-lipped about this, and the OPSEC was incredible. That's why they pulled this off. Okay, they're 10 kilometers to Kursk City, and this was last night before I went to sleep. I saw this, and wow, I mean, they're moving. Finally, last two things. This was Sir Arthur Bomber Harris. Arthur Harris was one of the top generals in the RAF, Britain's Royal Air Force, during World War II. He said the Nazis entered this war on the rather childish delusion that they were going to bomb everybody and no one was going to bomb them. Well, I think the Russians have been acting the same way. And finally, we'll leave with this. Russia should give up the Kerch region for the sake of peace. Noam Chomsky was making this kind of argument about the 4 oblasts that Russia had seized from Ukraine. And, well, maybe we should use that same argument now. All right, my friends, thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.